Hey y'all, it's Matt from Dlux Fab, dluxfab.com. You know who we are. Today, we're talking transmissions. Portal transmissions, NOD transmissions, OG legacy transmissions. So we're going to start at the beginning. First things first, we're nothing without, where we came from. So transmissions, most of y'all would have started with the OG 3-gear transmission. It's a little dirty, a little worse for wear, but you know how that goes. This thing weighs 118 grams, 4.2 ounces. These came in the AX10s, SCX10s. They're around for a long time. Good, solid, reliable transmission. Heavy, but reliable, versatile. From there, a lot of y'all went to the race stuff. You've seen these before. These had optional dig unit in here if you wanted to go that route. But it's basically more or less the same deal. 3 gears in here, had a longer output or a dig unit that would work from right here. These things are pretty heavy. 126 grams, 4.5 ounces, more or less. Once again, versatile, stout, but heavy. From there, most of y'all went to the the Capra. This thing's a pig. It's got dig in it, which is cool. All that fun stuff. Not a lot of gear reduction, but these things are a pig at 6.6 ounces. That's 187 grams. That's a heavy mama right there. So, but yeah, that's where we came from, where most of us have used in the past. Why would you want to switch to a Dlux Fab transmission? Weight, versatility, ease of fitment. If you want, weight is super important in your crawler. The more weight in the chassis, the higher your center of gravity. It's pretty basic. So, we have a lot of options from Dlux. From your basic Hamburger that's been around a good while, good stout option, to your cheeseburger from Dlux. It's been around a little while. We're going to cover each of these in some detail here in a minute. To your Margo/Fargo transmission. Some of y'all know what it is, some of y'all don't. Skids in part of this. We'll cover all these in more detail here soon enough, which is which. From there, get to our portal transmission. Most of y'all are familiar with this. It's pretty light. The ultralight portal transmission, which is bolted to this 380 revolver. This is the lightest transmission on the market right now. More detail here in a minute, like I said. Got the NOD. The NOD, this is non-overdrive, but this is for straight axle. We'll cover more of that in a minute. From there, into the OD3. This is our overdrive, technically underdrive transmission, but we'll cover more of that in just a minute. From there, we got the little sneak peek. This is the OD4. Shown here with the stumpy 2200 kV in it. This is more designed for minis. So this will go in your, we designed it for our La Pera Loca, which is our new 1.9 WRCCA mini transmission. That mini rig. It's pretty sweet. So, anyways, let's start at the beginning. Just a transmission overview. Start with the Hamburger. The Hamburger weighs 56 grams. That's 1.9 ounces, guys. It's pretty lightweight. It's got hardened steel gears, shiny titanium output shaft. It's only, let's see here, my sweet ass calipers here. I don't know, about 16 millimeters across here. This comes with a mounting plate to mount to your OG 3-gear pattern skid plate. You can pop that off if you want to mount directly to a skid plate here. So this one has a thicker motor plate. That's there to keep your motor. So when you're spinning this up under power, you just grab a motor here. Say it's like this. You're really reefing on the power. That way this doesn't flex like that and mess up your gear mesh. So gear reduction in the Hamburger, it's 5-to-1. Internal gear reduction. Plus a 48-tooth spur gear. So it's 5-to-1. And then you can use whatever pinion you want on there. So you can get reduction from your pinion to spur, and the spur through to output's 5-to-5, and then to your axles, right? This, you can mirror this one too. You can tear this apart, put this front plate on the back, this back plate on the front. Just pop it apart, push these bearings out. They'll be snug, but you can do with your fingers. The only thing you really need to change, this hole here is countersunk. If you go to mirror it and you want to flip it around because you want the motor on the other side or forward or aft, depending on your setup, you will need to countersink this hole on the other side of this plate. Not a big deal. Pretty straightforward. Tear it apart, flip the bearings around, put it all back together, countersink this hole, Bob's your auntie. So pretty straightforward on the hamburger here. Moving on to the cheese. This is an older design, but nonetheless effective. So gear reduction on the cheeseburger is 4-to-1 internal gear reduction. And it's got a 48 tooth spur, same as the hamburger. Titanium output shaft, two titanium output shafts. Now this one is designed more as a motor. It mounts up like in the truck like this. So the motor's a little higher and it faces the rear. Because this extra output here has 17% overdrive to your front, and it counter rotates to the one in the rear, right? Let's get this motor out of the way. So this one's turning clockwise, this other one's turning counterclockwise, as you could probably see in the video there. Now what that does is it counter rotates the drive shafts. The thought behind that is to fight torque twist. And it works to some degree. Now you can also use it as just like the hamburger, you can use it with the front and rear outputs 1-to-1, turn it the same way, or you counter rotate and overdrive the front. That's the idea behind it. The only sacrifice you're making here is the higher mounted motor. It's facing the rear because it has to be. Sorry for the older motor. It's still a good motor. 16 turn Crawlmaster. See here, what else? Same deal. Got that adapter on the bottom, same as a hamburger. Attaches to your legacy 3-gear transmission pattern. Only uses 2 of the bolts because you really don't need. Sometimes that'll work just fine. See, pretty basic stuff. But yeah, that's the cheeseburger. Oh yeah, cheeseburger weight 2.4 ounces, guys. That's 68 grams. You compare that to the OG 3-gear. You're saving this one with the plastic case and all that. You're saving that's 2.4 ounces versus 4.2. So 1.8 ounces you're taking it right out of the truck to begin with. Right up there, high as you can get it on your truck. It's pretty good weight savings. Moving on to the Fargo transmission. Now, the Margos rigs have been around a while. The guy stopped making some parts. And then the original Margo transmission was based on the RC 4-wheel drive R2 transmission gears. You would buy this printed portion, the transmission case, and the skid from Shapeways. And then you'd buy bearings from someone else. And then you'd find an R2 transmission for RC 4-wheel drive, and you rob just the gears and bushings out of it. It was a whole bunch of work to find all that, and it was expensive. Now, those R2 gears for that R2 transmission from RC 4-wheel drive was discontinued a few years ago. You couldn't get them anymore. A few of my friends, people you know, were snagging all those transmissions up and holding on to them for spares because they really like these Margo rigs. They work really well, but there wasn't options for gears out there. They were 32-pitch gears. They were loud, but they worked. Sounded kind of crunchy, like a bowl of oatmeal. Like your gears are in a bowl of oatmeal, I guess. Rawr, rawr, rawr. You get the idea. So, in order to try to keep those trucks alive and enable more people to build them, we came up with this transmission. Uses all 48-pitch gears, all hardened steel, titanium output shaft. The gear ratio in this thing is 9-to-1. That's a lot of gear reduction. It's got a has a 36-tooth spur gear in there. Hard to see, but down in here, that's a 36-tooth spur gear. Now, it's got an integrated skid, motor forward. So your links mount here on your skid on the Fargo or Margo chassis. Now, you can get these. We build these in a right or left motor configuration. Just touch base on that. When we mention left motor, like so, or right motor, like so configurations, as you would see here. Think of that as if you were sitting in the truck. That's the best way to explain it. If you're sitting in the truck, if you were pretend sitting in your RC truck, which side is the motor on? Is it on the right side? Excuse me. Is it on the right side or left side? It's pretty basic. All right, there's that. Oh, the weight on the Fargo transmission with integrated skid and the bolts here, 2.1 ounces. Thing don't weigh nothing. Moving on from that, another straight and just to be clear, the Fargo Margo transmission, that's designed with straight axles in mind, so it's got more gear reduction. So, pretty good stuff. Now moving on, the excuse me, we're going to the non-overdrive transmission right here, the NOD 2. This is one of the newer versions. It's got the anodized case, got the Dlux logo and the NOD 2 thing on there. Weight-wise, let me look at my notes. 42 grams. The ultralight version of that, right here, weighs 1.2 ounces, which is 34 grams. So we're taking a lot of weight out of the belly of that truck to keep it light. This is a left motor version. This is a right motor version, just as explained before. So gear reduction for the NOD 2. That's a 4-to-1 inside. It's 4-to-1. Plus, it has a, where's my notes up there? It has a 44 tooth spur. So you could divide 44 by 12, your 12 tooth pinion, and you could do that math. And then whatever your, then times 4-to-1, boom, there's your transmission ratio. These come with a hardened steel output shaft. The difference you can see right off the hop, where these have a titanium. This, the shiny one's titanium output on the Portal, hardened steel on the NOD. Just is the way they are. You got your aluminum, so your full aluminum case version, whether it's anodized or, you know, raw. The fully cased one, it's better for trail rigs and stuff that run in dirty conditions. If you're running in dirty, nasty, moving sand and mud and all that, the open gear one might not be the best for you. You might want the one that's more or less sealed up. Keep rocks and stuff out of your gears. Works really well. From there, moving to the Portal transmission. Easy way to identify the Portal transmission. If you don't know the Portal from the NOD, let me find them here. Here's one. This is a Portal. One is smaller, physically the size. You can see the two differences. One is smaller. Two, on the Portal, we were able to put the mounting screws directly in line, as you can see here. On the NOD, this is for straight axles, we had to angle those. Just a matter of room where everything has to be. This stuff gets in the way. Screw here. You see, it had to be offset more or less. Now, the Portal transmission has a 3-to-1 gear reduction in it. You don't need as much gear reduction for Portal axles because, well, they're Portal axles. They have more gear reduction in the axles. They have a 36 tooth spur gear. So, depending on your opinion, you can do that math. All that. This is on a 380 revolver motor. Obviously, you can tell it's experienced. This is a Holmes 2000 kV. This one's experienced. It's seen some time with an MOA. So the weight on the the Portal transmission, the aluminum version. This is a NOD, but looks pretty much the same. The Portal transmission weighs 36 grams. That's 1.3 ounces, guys. That's pretty lightweight. The ultralight version is 1 ounce. That's a 1 ounce transmission, guys. 29 grams. That's the lightest transmission on the market. So from there, moving on to the this is the OD3. Weighs 70 grams. That's 2.4 ounces. So this is they come in left or right motor versions, depending on your setup. Hardened steel gears, as you can see inside there. Hardened steel. Can we get light in there? Can't tell if I can see it in there or not. There you go. Hardened steel gears. Titanium output shafts. Machined aluminum housing. You got your cover here, so you can see. Check on your pinion mesh where it intersects your spur gear. Now the OD3 has a 3.66 to 1 reduction on the inside. with a 44 tooth spur gear. So it's pretty good for straight axles. This is the heart of our Nessie and our Lunatic Sporty. It's built around this transmission. So the way this transmission is set up, you can have one-to-one drive for your front and rear from these titanium output shafts here and here. So it's versatile. You're changing rigs around, you know, changing axles, whatever it is you're doing. You can have one-to-one, or you can have 18.6 underdrive to the rear. So that means your rear is spinning 18.6% slower than your front right here. And the rear is in line with the motor. So you can see how this would go. Bink. That's the left motor version. Left motor as you're sitting in the truck. Now all of these transmissions we've mentioned so far use a 48 tooth standard pinion. Or 48 tooth, sorry. 48 pitch standard pinion. It's nothing, no rocket surgery here. But they are the nicest transmissions you can find. They are the most compact transmissions you can find. They are the lightest transmissions you can find for your RC truck. They all have hardened steel gears inside. Good luck hurting them. A lot of guys have had these for a while. Different versions, the OD, the NOD, the NOD. I haven't heard of a gear failure that had something to do with someone abusing it. Well, abuse is kind of part of what we do with rock crawlers. We expect it. The issues I've seen so far have been more than gear failures versus someone having an open one and getting it full of rocks and tearing it up. Is guys have had big power in these trucks, big power heavy trucks, and they've had bearing failures, which is torn, chewed up gears. But usually the bearing will fail, typically before the gear. That's what we've seen. So they're stout. You don't have to worry about hurting it. If you want to go big power, you know, go big power. Don't worry about it. If you're like, will my truck, my 8-pound truck with a 2700 kV motor in it or whatever it is and 4 cells or whatever, yes, do it. This is a 2700 kV Puller Pro stubby from Holmes. It's a pretty stout motor. Some guys go even bigger. Send it. Don't worry about it. If it breaks, reach out to us. We'll help you get her fixed up again. Oh, another thing to cover now that I just did that. By necessity, just the nature of the gears. The portal transmission. The small gear you see here. Here it's quiet. I don't know if you hear that or not. These are dry. Nice and smooth. You put a little grease on those, wear them in a little bit, be real quiet. But that tooth that here, that's a 12 tooth gear. So that's spinning 3 times the speed of the gear it's meshing. Inside of the NOD, NODs, they're a little noisier. That's because this middle gear you can't see. I could tear one apart if need be, but this middle gear is an 11 tooth. And it's engaging let me look at my notes here. It's engaging a 44 tooth. So that thing is spinning 4 times as fast as that gear it engages. That little 11 tooth gear is spinning its little tail off. So it's going to be a little noisier. And when you get to an 11 tooth 48 pitch gear, by the size of the circle, when you get from a 12 teeth, the gear teeth are all pretty uniform because of the size of the circle, right? So the gear teeth are all pretty uniform. When you go to an 11, you're getting the teeth have to change shape because how small you're getting, right? From here to here, per se. So those gear teeth have to change shape going from a 12 to an 11 is smaller. So once you get smaller than a 12 tooth, you know, an 11, 10, or a 9, they're going to be a little noisier. It's just the nature of the beast. You can wear them in good. The more you drive it, the quieter it'll get as everything kind of wears in together. But the NODs are just a hair noisier than the portals transmissions. It's just the way they are. Now we're going to cover left motor versus right motor. All that fun stuff. Seems to be a lot of confusion around this. So when we lay these transmissions out, when we talk about left versus right motor, more or less, think about it as you're sitting in the truck. If you were sitting in your RC truck, like if you were going to drive it, if it was full size, whether the motor's on the right or on the left, So this is a left-hand drop SS Dlux. Doesn't really matter if it's portal or either one. It's the same. With the pumpkin, the diff on your left, you want the motor on the right, laid out like so, because your drive shaft and your motor can't occupy the same space. See here, it's a nice straight shot. It's pretty sweet. If you went to flip this around, you get a left motor on a left motor truck, on a left pumpkin. You see see the problem here? Your drive shaft's going to run into the motor. Now, you could turn the transmission a little bit and use one of our Cuddling drive shafts, a skinny drive shaft, and sneak this past. That's fine. Don't be scared to kind of twist that a little bit. The little bit of deflection, as long as there's room in your chassis for the motor to be that way, it's no problem. It's fine. But more or less, if you have a left drop front axle, as in the TRX4, Vanquish F10s, the Axial SCX-10-3 portals, any of that, you're going to want a right motor. Just using this motor because it's handy. Just like that. Left motor, left pumpkin, right motor. As you're sitting in the truck. That's the same way if you order an SS Dlux axle, a left drop, this is a left drop. It's on the left as you're sitting in the truck. If you want a right drop, we can build those too. But we'll get the SS Dluxes and all that later. But that's pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Otherwise, transmissions. What else did we not cover? Another portion we didn't really cover in the earlier in the videos. Some of these transmissions, the nod, sometimes the OD3, they come with spacers. These are for the OD3. So these allow you to space the space the transmission up off the skid if you need more motor clearance. Space it up. 1, 2, depends on what you need. Some of the transmissions, the NODs, come with these motor spacers. So there. Every now and then, you'll need to space your motor out or trim your pinion shaft. Just depending on the length of the pinion shaft on the motor you're running. You may either need to get one of these little spacers to space the motor out that much more to avoid interference with your pinion shaft. Like here's an example. On these 380 revolvers, you can see that pinion shaft is real close to that. Me personally, I would just take the motor I'm using, wrap it in masking tape, take my Dremel, and cut this pinion shaft off. Just nip it right off. If you don't want to do that, this spacer here, will it jam in there? It won't. But you can use a spacer here, as you can see, space it out of way. That way you can see that. You can get that room you need for the end of that. If you know, either you don't want to, you don't have the tools to trim a motor shaft. Well, hey y'all, just in closing, this transmission video, I think we pretty much made good coverage of a lot of the questions y'all would have about transmissions. We talked about portal transmissions, nods, OD3s, OD4. You can use any of the straight axle transmissions on a portal truck. No worries. You're just going to need to use a larger pinion to get that wheel speed back. Pretty straightforward. Most of y'all know that, but as I was editing the video, I noticed I didn't really cover that. So if you guys have questions, concerns, ideas for new stuff, speak up. We're here to help. You know, Dlux Fab, dluxfab.com. If you got questions or concerns, email us at contactus@dluxfab.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe these videos. As we're growing this channel out, I'll be happy to hear all your ideas and suggestions. What do you want us to build? What questions do you have? What do you want to see going forward? This is you guys' channel just as much as it is ours. So you want to hear stuff? You want to see things? Ask. Thanks, guys.